What's going on, everybody? This is Moose and Waleed here. What's going on, everybody? This is from OccupyFantasy.com at OccupyFantasy.com at OccupyFantasy on Twitter, YouTube, posting a whole bunch of shorts. So go follow us on all the different social media platforms. We're here drafting Underdog Fantasy Best Ball Draft number 8 live stream. It's my first one. Waleed, your second. I'm excited to do this. It's our first one together. What's going on, man?
Not much. Schedule release day. So the sleuths have been online parsing, the different week 17, week 16 matchups. And I imagine some of these contests now, especially like the Chihuahua, which is getting close to filled up, will have a mass entrance of people trying to sneak them in. So no, it's a fun time of year. Once the schedule is out, it does feel as though like, we have everything we need to prepare ourselves for the, week 15, 16, 17 rounds. Of course, things will change between training camp news and we'll see people go up and down, but no, it's fun. I'm pumped.
Exactly, yes. So I just entered a Chihuahua, and I think it's actually almost pretty much filled. Yeah, we're just waiting on one more person, and actually it's starting. So
There we
draft
go.
should be
What
here pretty
pick do
soon.
we have here?
Shocker. We have the 14th pick. Sorry,
The
11th pick.
14th pick?
11th run back,
Okay,
14th. Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah,
and
I did not know we had 14 team leagues in Underdog.
this is I think my first Chihuahua. I've been mainly doing the puppies. I did a couple BBMs, and yeah, so I'm excited. Just kind of, Wally, I don't know how much you've been doing this, but for me, these early drafts, more of just for me getting back in the groove of things, right? We haven't done full best ball drafts in several months, and so just there's little
Speaking for yourself, buddy. I'm a sicko. I've been drafting since the big boards.
oh
But no,
god.
I hear you. I know you actually have other priorities in your life. So, yeah, I'll kind of help you as much as I can. Ultimately, you're more than capable. What I'll say is, this year it feels as though, and people have probably heard this a lot, like um, there's a big drop off after the first round. But I think with the first 12 picks, regardless of where you are picking, you have a chance. It's like Pokemon, right? Like you pick your Pokemon to start your journey with. So even at pick 11 here, I think you'll be able to kind of build it how you want. And then round two, I'd say all bets are off. So definitely feel free to reach a little to kind of start with different builds that you're specifically targeting and so forth.
Yeah, so for me, and I think you and I have talked about this offline and other channels of, for the first round, at least creeping into the second round, kind of just trying to get equal exposure to everyone. And all these players are great,
Mhm.
and so it's not like I'm trying to get 60% Tyreek Hill or 100% Jamar Chase.
Right.
It's not like I'm overreaching one to those people. I'm just trying to get an equal number of people because they're still really good, and I don't want to
I'm with
get
you.
like a luck of the draw where I have a playoff team and I reach for someone in round one, and now I'm like, oh crap, I don't have any like hashtag good players and on my
Mhm.
team.
100%. Yeah, every year is different, and ADPs are as sharp as ever. I would say this year, I don't have any strong stances at all in the first round. I think, I'm going to want to be as even as humanly possible because even if one player outperforms, or a few players outperform the rest, you could still not be the guy you need in week 16, 17 in these specific formats. Now redraft, it's a different animal, but here you are picking. Most likely you're going to have an option between um, Puka, AJ Brown. Looks like Garrett Wilson's gone, so maybe one of the running backs will fall to you. I mean, it's a good chance you'll have it, um, either Bijan, Brees, or Gibbs, who I think all profile as the types of like hero RB builds we do like to target.
Yeah.
But I'll let you kind of make your first pick here.
Cool. So I've been trying to get that Philly stack. It's coming in with AJ Brown. I think a little bit too much exposure on AJ Brown right
Mhm.
now, so I think I'm gonna go. I was gonna go with one of the running
Pick
backs,
it up.
but they just both got sniped before me. So, uh,
Yeah,
and AJ
Puka
Brown just got
or
taken. So I was thinking Puka.
Puka or
Uh,
Gibbs. Either
yeah,
way, I think. I mean, Puka. I would just capitalize on the ADP value here,
yeah,
considering the discrepancy and yeah, unlikely, but there's a chance Gibbs does come back around to you.
yeah, which would be nice.
So then, obviously, your second pick here. Now that we have schedules out, just take a look at it. It's usually just a tiebreaker. I'm not going to force anything, but the Rams do play the Cardinals week 17, and Marvin Harrison Jr. That Puka correlation just could be a that's going to be popular now that we see that, right? We know a lot of people are going to want to get there,
Yeah.
but it might not be as easy considering Puka rarely falls to the 111 and maybe not a bad way to kind of start it off in a receiver build.
Yeah, I think for a majority of my drafts I've done so far, I've had zero RBs outside of the top running backs.
Mhm.
Most of the time I'm going, 3-4 rounds before
Smooth
going.
start here.
Yeah, this is a great start. So I'm going to go ahead over
And
here.
by the way, shout out to good guy Grant on Twitter because we are basing our week 17 schedule based off his post. He could totally be shit posting us here. We're looking at the wrong thing, but we'll put a little faith in humanity that our guy here is giving us some accurate schedules.
Here's the thing. If not, we can just say, "Oh, we were just testing our strategy for when it actually does get leaked," and
There we
go
go.
from there. So, yeah. So I have two solid wide receivers here. I know, Lead. I said I normally don't reach for running backs, especially trying to go more zero RB builds this year.
Mhm.
But it does kind of say that, like, just because we're trying to go zero RB builds doesn't mean we always need to go zero RBs these early rounds. If someone falls to you, or even if you don't like it, just to get your exposures up to these people, because
Mhm.
these people have a high ADP for a reason. They're good players. They're expected
Correct.
to score a lot of
Those
points, and
top three
so
picks, I think,
yeah,
are all good picks, right?
yeah,
There's no doubt about it. They profile as guys who are explosive pass catching backs in really good situations. Also in Gibbs, we've seen him getting more involved in the goal line. These are all the type of guys that we could look back at the end of the year and they're averaging 20 plus PPR points a game. I think the drop off, and one thing I've found with running backs here is even with this whole zero running back strategy, there are bucket of running backs at almost every part of the draft, right?
yeah.
So, whereas the receivers, they start coming off the board quick, and then you get to round 5, and you're already kind of like, whoa, if you don't have 3 receivers by then, you start to feel really. Um, and there's so many ways to kind of fight your way out of these receiver heavy starts versus if you, and not to say it, like you could have a very receiver heavy build and start 2 running backs, right? You just have to
Yeah.
kind of be conscious of what's going to happen on the back end and further round. So you are coming up here in 11 picks. So at this point, obviously too hard to project exactly who'll be available, but any guys sticking out to you as folks you want to start building around here?
Not really too much. I got burned a lot last season of reaching for quarterbacks. I know it seems like a fish thing for me to say, but so yeah, when I see Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, all these other people, I
Well,
don't
their
really see
prices
much.
are significantly lower, I should say, compared to
Mhm.
last year.
Yeah,
What you're paying is way more. I mean, for me, I find it very easy to digest, and they do offer a unique upside in this format where rushing is weighed a little more, given passing yards are only get point for 25 passing yards. So I don't know. I mean, but the thing is QB does feel very deep as
yeah,
well. So I think that's why their prices are suppressed. I do like some of these earlier tight ends. Laporta is not a guy I've been getting, but right after him, you got McBride, Andrews, Kelsey. I almost had to kind of slap myself on the wrist and say, got to cut myself off at some point. But McBride, perhaps makes sense when we come back around if he is their slight reach, but you already got Marvin Harrison Jr. and can kind of focus on a Cardinal stack,
Oh
which
yes.
some of these stacks become very easy to build, and you almost don't want to get trapped into like having half your Marvin Harrison teams right with
Yeah.
that. But um, plenty of options here. I'll say you can go any position at this point.
Yeah, so I had Cooper Cup lined up. It looks like Chupa77 was watching the stream. Didn't say hi,
Mm.
so that's not good. If you're going to watch the stream, you should say hello. If you have questions for us as well, go ahead and ask. We're here for basically the whole draft and talking for a little bit afterwards. I don't know. I'm thinking, I mean, what's your thought on Kelsey? I mean, I thought that didn't have the best at the end of the season. Getting there kind of old. Tight end two, do you think that's a reach to go from here in round three? I mean, if we're just trying to go.
I don't personally because I mean dude, if you really look back at last year, he hyperextended his knee, missed week one, came back, then had almost, I don't know if it was a high ankle injury, but clearly it was bothering him throughout the year. And he still finished as a tight end one or, close to it in the points per game basis.
Yeah.
And also just like, look what he did in the postseason.
Yeah.
Like, let's get real here, right? So, I'll be dropping him a lot. I think also, the addition of Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, the offensive efficiency should improve. Like, I just don't see the Chiefs limping like they were last year.
Yeah. You say
So,
that as you
yeah,
say that as I drafted Trey McBride instead.
which is,
But
I mean,
but
totally valid here. So you're
so
back on the
so
clock focus.
yeah. So
What
let
do you
me
think
ask you
of
this
the
then. So does it make sense to just go two tight ends heavy and then kind of just ride that wave?
I don't like that personally because if I'm betting on this here, I mean, I'm okay with two tight ends as far as in the first to 8 rounds if you feel like, hey, I can get like someone like Njoku down the line.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This feels pretty gross, so I would definitely not do that.
I
Okay,
swapped.
Josh
I
Jacobs.
Yeah.
So
I went Josh Jacobs last second. Yeah. And
mm,
I've always thought about that. Like, it's one of those things where it's like if you take two of the three tight ends or whatever, and you're kind of just like, I don't. I think tight end's
you're
a bad
and then
position to
you're
do it.
done. You're done with tight end.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so I'll say backtrack a little. I don't think it's like, for instance, if you were telling me, hey, it's between that and Josh Jacobs, I can understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your strategy is, look, I'm going to take two tight ends that I actually feel so confident are going to finish in the top three and then weekly upside. Because every year when we look back at like the half PPR scoring, right? How many 20 plus, 25 plus point performances do we get from tight ends in half PPR?
Yeah.
Not much. You might get the routinely. So, in the event that, let's say, they both have high advance rates, they both are good picks compared to some of these receivers and running backs. And then it just happens so week 15, McBride, he duds or Kelsey duds, and the other one goes off.
Yeah.
So it's actually not a crazy strategy. I don't want to dismiss it. I think yeah, that's something where, like, once you get a handful of drafts in, it's like, okay, let me kind of play with this.
Yeah.
Um, but it's definitely something people won't do. So I don't know. I could understand. And also, it's like, what is your opportunity cost at that point in the draft? The trade off too is then you're done, right? You're only taking two tight ends and
Yeah.
you are not touching them at all, which gives you an option for another wide receiver. But yeah, like the start, Josh Jacobs has been a guy I've started to come around um, more on. He got paid. The Packers obviously prioritized him in the offseason. They let Aaron Jones go. We kind of saw the McVay, and really like the kind of the McVay tree. Same with Kyle and Green Bay start implementing like more gap runs and things that I think favor Josh Jacobs a little more
Mm-hmm.
and just diversify their run scheme a bit. So unless there's some you know lack of synergy between the front office and LaFleur, I do feel as though there's a reason they got Josh Jacobs. And honestly, like, yeah, we might be losing efficiency and some explosive plays, but what are we really buying? We're buying the offense, right?
Yeah.
We're buying that Jordan Love is really good. This Green Bay team is going to score a lot of touchdowns. And unlike Aaron Jones, I don't anticipate Josh Jacobs getting vultured by AJ Dillon or Marshawn Lloyd, right? I do
Yeah.
feel like you can feel pretty good about his goal line work. So would it surprise you if we look up in the end of the year and Josh Jacobs has 14, 15 touchdowns? Probably not. Now, the tough part about it is you are paying up for volume, and volume is probably the running back volume is the most available thing, right?
Yeah.
So in some ways, I think Pat Kerrane said it like, what can you get here that you can't get later? Well, running back volume is definitely something you can get later, but the trade off is, what did you pass up at receiver? If you feel like, hey, for this build, I don't feel concerned about what I passed up on, then it certainly makes sense. So you're coming up here. I do like Pickens. I mean, yeah, Pickens was not. That would have been some
I was
incredible
gonna say there's
value
no
there.
way Pickens was gonna fall that far. But yeah, so it got me here.
Mhm.
I mean, I got the Bengals hat on.
Yeah, at
Do I
this
take?
point now, it's like you kind of feel buried at running back, right, or at receiver now, right? Because now you're looking at I'm looking at two rookies at the top of the board. Um, you could lean into it here and say, I'm just going to take Joe Mixon and just pay for expensive volume on good teams.
Yeah.
It feels gross, right? I mean, you can also go receiver here. It's your call. Um,
I always
but
got to
that's
support my
kind
man
of
Mixon, right? Like I put the hat on. I know he's not for the team anymore, but
the
he's always an honorary member, honorary Bengal. So have to draft him when I
look. The
can.
thing about Joe, I mean, once again, in the price that you're paying, it's not what really hurts because you're getting good, I think, value for someone who. And look, now we should definitely get a receiver here.
Yeah.
Um, you're looking at Adunze, Ridley. I do. I mean, they're different types of profiles, right? One is that rookie in a crowded room. I
Yeah.
think Ridley. You know, he things didn't break so well for him last year as far as a couple of misconnections with Trevor Lawrence, but this guy is he's not going to the 2000 he's not going to the Mike Vrabel Tennessee Titans now, right?
Hmm.
He's going to a different environment. I think a team that's going to want to push the ball vertically, a team that really paid him the bag, and also allows you to get some cheap stack value with the Titans, right?
Yeah.
Down the line, especially now knowing, okay, we're a little behind on receiver. That could be a team that can help bail us out with Hopkins, right? And Tyler Boyd. But that's kind of the trade off here. But back to Mixon, who I think, the more I've thought about it, it's like, do we think that Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor really have higher upsides than Joe Mixon? If we take out our perceptions of the players, right? Because
Yeah.
how they came in, their athletic profiles, we think of JT and Barkley as home run hitters, right? Um, and two guys have awesome offensive line situations, but as far as the offense and the style around it, Joe Mixon to me profiles as a guy he's not going to get vultured inside the five like Taylor and Barkley,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to worry about the tush push. They run more of your, coming from the kind of the Shanahan schemed offense, more under center. You'll see Mixon, which it's going to be different, right, than playing under shotgun and just seeing him in a better running scheme. He looked decent last year. I don't think I mean, he's not like 30 years old. He's 27. They clearly invested in him. They felt as though this guy's important. Now, whether that's a good front office move or not, I think most people will say, why are you, prioritizing him? But once again, I mean, this is a guy, it's the offense we're buying, right? If we're
Yeah.
buying the Texans, you didn't get Nico Collins, you didn't get Stephon Diggs here. Who's a guy that we look
Can
up
get
and all of
volume
a
and
sudden
is
he
not
has
being vultured in any way. Like, I mean,
and can
he's like,
score. He can
yeah.
have a 3 touchdown game, right? He can have one of these games where, that's what we're really looking for in half PPR. Can he have multiple touchdowns? And can he? And most guys are going to need explosive plays to get multiple touchdowns. However, if you're on a good offense and things break your way, we've seen Mixon have those games on the Bengals. And
Absolutely.
then also in the passing game, right? Stroud is a pocket quarterback. He's not looking to scramble. And honestly, right now, who's behind him? Damian Pierce, not exactly a guy I'm too worried about stealing third down and 2 minute
Yeah,
offense from.
exactly. Yeah. So
Now we are definitely behind the eight ball, right? As far as kind of how we're feeling at wide receiver, but Kyler seems like an easy pick considering we have the stack set up. Of course,
yep.
someone's going to obviously snipe us, right?
They're watching the stream. They're not. They're taking advantage of the promo code Occupy2 to get your deposit match with Underdog. They're sniping the stream. They're putting in a whole bunch of money into Underdog, hitting these
And you know
drafts,
what could
sniping
feel
me, and
good
call it
here?
and love it. What was that?
Well, it could feel pretty good here. It might seem gross, but if we can get both Kyler and then turn around and get DeAndre Hopkins, now we're at least on the corollary front feeling pretty good, right?
Yeah.
It's a bet on the Titans, right? And two older receivers, but at the same time, DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, speaking of Will, he's still there. Okay, cool. I thought he just went. I was like, um, you know, Will Levis, big question mark, but it's best ball, right? So some of these things that may punish us in redraft and weekly consistency. Oh, of course. So hey, we got to adapt. It's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I say Charlie
So now
Brown with
that's
not
just
a single Arizona player sniped us. So
I love it. Well, it's okay. It's okay,
yeah.
Charlie. We're not going to tilt here. What we're going to do is we're
Yeah.
going to probably take DeAndre Hopkins,
Yeah.
right, and continue to build. We'll find a way to access some quarterback correlation as well. We can, if anything, now it's like we almost want to lean into this, right? It's like, okay, you're going to take this guy from us now. Um, Feels gross, but another thing we can do is take Tony Pollard here, right? Or if you want to go kind of that second tight end route. Now, if you take Tony Pollard here, the strategy has to be we might even take four running backs this draft, right? Like
Yeah.
we might have to be good with just taking four running backs, and we're leaning into now addressing receiver by volume, unless you want to take Rashee Rice or Christian Watson. But
No, so I
the
actually had
corollary,
Tony Pollard. I actually had Tony Pollard lined up. I'm all for this correlation thing, especially in best ball. If I can get a team through, and I just got to worry about a team, then that works. So if I just got to worry about the Tennessee Titans, then I got to worry about the Tennessee Titans. That's all I got to do.
there
And
you go.
actually, this is
And
a
look,
crazy take lead. Is I actually like having towards the very front or very back in that case of when you get sniped, because normally when you have your at the end like you have those two picks right kind of back to back, you're already kind of lining up your game plan for those two. So if you get sniped for
yeah.
one, you can just say, hey, I'm going to take this 30 seconds, regroup. I already know the one guy that I'm going to take, and I got 30 seconds to figure it
Mm-hmm.
out for the other one. So I kind of like it.
For
So it's
sure.
not getting too frazzled up there.
And I think it really, what I've learned, the more you draft, like when I first started kind of getting back in the swing of things, it's very easy to get frazzled and, you get sniped or you have an idea in mind and then all of a sudden you have to take a detour. And then you almost start like overcompensating. It's like, oh, well, I didn't get Kyler. Let me get the next quarterback, right? Or
Yeah.
let me do this. Instead, leaning into like, let's just assume we are right here, right? And what is taking that third running back open up for us down the line? What it does is now it lets us really focus on wide receiver
Mm-hmm.
and, quarterback. And honestly, it's like the fact that you can go into it and say, you know what, we can escape this draft with four running backs. I think um, it can open some other things up, right? It feels gross
Yeah.
objectively. Like I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, this is what we wanted. Of course, we would have preferred Kyler, but here we are, right? We can't do anything about it. And then also, look, we still want to advance teams. We don't want to just throw a pissy fit and just say, well, we didn't get our guy. Let's go off the rails. But you can get unique. So now coming up here in a bit. Now, this is where I usually would say, like, when I see David Njoku, or even Brock Bowers, but like Njoku, I'm like, this is like an explosive tight end, someone who showed as this offense evolved last year. And I really felt like Stefanski, something clicked when it wasn't just like, oh, Joe Flacco's the guy, right? Let's throw it 40 times a game and
Yeah.
attack vertically. I think part of that was it. It was also losing Nick Chubb and realizing, hey, we can play this way and be successful. But someone like David Njoku, one other thing that it opens up is we can be done after two tight ends, right? If
Yep.
we take someone like Njoku here, and then we also have an ability to now access some correlation with Deshaun Watson, maybe with the cheap Jerry Judy and Elijah Moore. They don't feel great, but at the same time, we know we're kind of behind on receiver, right? So I do like kind of the doors that opens up. And just because we have it up, let's see who the Titans play week 17. They have the Jaguars week 17. So,
Nice. And so, of course,
um,
someone took Njoku. So, I know you talked about
mhm.
we're behind on some wide receivers. A person that I'm actually a lot higher on in ADP for my rankings and projections is Tyler Lockett. Again, I'm
Mhm.
drafting more for these type of explosion players. We know he's another guy that can put up multiple touchdown games.
Yeah.
I know there's a little bit of like
He
a lot
also
more.
plays Green Bay week 15
Yeah.
for what it's worth.
So I
Yeah,
know
no,
that
I feel
there's
the
some.
same way about him and Mike Williams. These are guys who aren't sexy. They're
Yeah.
vets. They're on the and even Mike Williams. I almost I'm thinking, okay, he's coming off a clean ACL tear, right? Not like multi ligament. He is a big body. We're betting, folks are drafting as if Aaron Rodgers is going to come in and be healthy, right? And his dominant self. Um, if we're talking half PPR, like who's the kind of player who I think can get you 100 in a touch?
Yeah.
Mike Williams is that player profile for me. So okay, so now we are looking at what's available here at tight end.
Yeah. So I was
Hawkinson,
actually I
not too
have
crazy about that.
I was gonna say I
I
have
wouldn't pick him personally.
yeah, pretty much
Mitchell,
Goddard and Hawkinson lined up
try
pretty much
AD
for.
Mitchell. AD Mitchell, get AD Mitchell here. Let's see where
Yeah.
that takes us.
All right. So we did not get him in time. We got Dallas Goddard. So that's going to be our tight end picks there.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Let me not be a Debbie Downer.
No,
So
no,
the
we're
reason
good.
why I would have liked AD Mitchell is he would profile really well with your receiver room, right? Where you got Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Lockett, obviously three older dudes. Get a little youth in there, right? If
Yeah.
one of these guys isn't available um, down the line, and then I mean, I do like the player as well, but okay, it's okay. Now we
We're all
have to be
good.
done with tight end, I think.
Yeah.
And Goddard does check the ways the David Njoku box, right? Kind of
Yep.
cheaper, where you're looking at um, you know, he does have that explosive playability. He's in an offense that will push the ball, and um, I think definitely a better in best ball sort of pick for sure.
Definitely. And speaking of that, we're about halfway through the draft now. So Underdog is making. We have to do a little ad read for them. I just wanted to let you know. So something that we do have to say. I know we are drafting NFL, but there's golf tomorrow, PGA Championship. So definitely take a swing at pick 'em on Underdog this week's golf major, the PGA Championship, where Underdog has the biggest offerings in the game to make your picks from. If you download the Underdog Fantasy app and sign up today, new customers will receive a player special plus a deposit offer up to $250 deposit match when using promo code Occupy2 when signing up. So head on over to Underdog Fantasy and get started tonight. You don't have to use all that 250 on the PGA Championship. You can draft some big dogs, some best ball millionaires, some chihuahuas, whatever you want. Also get in on some golf there. I think Underdog actually has some of the best golf product there is. So yeah, definitely go ahead and check them out. And but yeah, so
And
go ahead.
yeah, I was definitely being dramatic when you didn't pick AD Mitchell. I'm coming around to the Goddard pick. I
There
do
we go.
think it definitely can open some things up for you. So as far as your next pick, now let's pull up some of these receivers that we have to pick from because I do think we're going to start having to match since. So I'd love Jahan Dotson,
Hmm.
Josh Downs, Leggett, Gabe Davis. He does have some Week 17 correlation with the Titans. Romeo Dubs is just a guy that I haven't been. Same with Josh Palmer. Like at that point in the draft, I want to take some swings.
Yeah,
And I think you have enough as far as just guys that can give you usable weeks. And I think you can get the same types of players a little later. Leggett is interesting. Wicks, you can say, correlates there. We don't have any quarterbacks. So one thing we can consider here is a potential check who the best quarterbacks are available.
Herbert, Cousins, Stafford, A Rod.
So we're Stafford's probably on our radar. We could get a cheap Herbert Quentin Johnson stack, which
Yeah, I hate
feels
I hate
gross,
but I mean, I'm one
but
of those things where like we're down here now. Should I just reach for like Stafford? At least we know we have one correlation there going.
I mean, you can get him when he comes back around. I'm not too
Yeah,
worried. I almost would consider. I mean, up to you, whoever you want to pick. I wouldn't reach here. Like, I don't see the point. I think
joke's on you.
there's
I'm
still some
reaching.
good players for you
Let's
to
go.
pick from. All right.
We're reaching. So it's one of those things where like we've been down bad, couple
Oh, pull
picks,
up
and
receiver. Pull up receiver. See who we got here still,
yeah.
because
So I got
you're gonna have to.
Dotson, Downs, Gabe Davis.
You got some options. Dontavian Wicks, come back around. So see, personally, I would have probably pushed the Stafford stack off ADP, but I respect it. You feel good now. You got your guy.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, go
feeling.
take it how you want.
Yeah, loving some Josh
In a
Downs. Just
vacuum, I like John Dotson. But
oh yeah,
considering like correlation, all that, I think Dotson has the cleanest path to giving you as many usable weeks. But Josh, so let's start looking at some correlation.
yeah. Cool. So,
Week
yeah, so we had the
17.
two picks that we disagreed on. I think that's
Yeah.
it's going to
No,
happen.
that's cool. I like it. Now
We're
you got
good.
your week 17 correlation with Stafford, Puka,
Yeah, cuz like that's one of
big
those things
game
where
for you. That's a good environment.
we've talked offline about it where like yes,
No, you
I
made the
like
right pick.
at
You
least
made
this
the right
early I
pick
think that like ADP it's okay to reach for anything
for
really.
sure. It's
And
100%, 100%.
And so even if it's just for like a psychological reason, just to keep you in for those later rounds, like all right, I know at least I'm gonna get one quarterback wide receiver stack. Boom, I reached 2 rounds too early. Whatever, I still got him. Just for that
Totally
psychological
fine.
boost
Hmm.
too. Like we're good.
So let's pull up, click all the like at this point now. I want to see all the guys available, not just
Yeah,
receiver, and see what we are working with. And let's just take a look at your team from if you don't mind pulling it up. I want to get a good sense of kind of what we're looking at.
let's
So we
see.
do have a quarterback that we feel pretty solid about. We're definitely going to want to get another one pretty
Yeah,
soon before I'd say the drop happens.
let's see here. Yes, I'm just trying to see if there's anyone that kind of sticks out. Yeah, I don't really like
Get
reaching like
Gino, get some Gino Lockett correlation as well, but
yeah,
you can wait on that. You don't have, like at this point where Levis is a guy we're targeting, right?
yeah.
But what about running backs and receivers? Let's look at that.
So running back receivers kind of have you know our really own our own pick of whatever we want. Really.
Yeah. So receivers are at this point are yuck, right? So you have six guys here, and we're going to attack it with volume as well.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, Jermaine Burton's an interesting pick. I'd say for running back at this point, it's about taking swings, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want guys like that are just going to eat volume. So like when I think of a swing, I think of like Kendra Miller, who if
Yeah.
something happened to Alvin Kamara, I think he has a good kind of three down sort of profile and an explosive player. I can see how has a top five running back week, right?
Yeah.
Um, but up to you how you want to play it. But yeah, it's really kind of pick your flavor here.
Yeah. I mean, not really too much. I was kind of targeting Kendrick Miller as well. Like again, those guys where we know, like basically just targeting, just like you said, the surprise. If
Mhm.
they blow up, if something happens, we know that their roles they can get 20 plus carries a game if something happens and can help you get through even just a couple weeks. So Kendra Miller picks that. I don't think he's going to be there in 5 more picks.
Mhm.
Looking back here
I
on,
do. I haven't been a guy I've had some more thought on is Darnell Mooney. I actually think he
mm,
profiles really well in this sort of format, right? He got paid. I know that's not everything, but clearly a priority signing, right? We're all pumped about Kirk Cousins in that environment. And Drake
yeah,
London, we got Drake London going at early round two. historically, Kirk has been a guy who makes players like Darnell Mooney viable vertically,
Yeah.
right? We've seen it since his Washington days. When I see Darnell Mooney, I almost see a guy who could give you like a Tyler Lockett-esque season. Will probably be an absolute headache in redraft, but will I mean, this is a guy who he put up 1,000 yards, right? Now that was inefficient, high volume season, but like we should credit him for that. And going from kind of what they were last year with Justin Fields to now this sort of environment, it is interesting. So I mean, it's your call here. I feel it'd be great if we could get both of these guys right
Yeah.
come back around. So maybe part of this is looking at kind of who we're up against here, and um, here's a guy. Ooh, okay. So let's
Yeah.
hope he lets.
I was gonna say, I mean, I've always been more of the sense of I'm taking more shots at wide receiver, hoping that my running backs
Mhm.
are, I
Carrying
get
you there.
one or two carrying us. We got our three here that we know are going to get in the game, going to get their points, going to get their targets, their
Mhm.
carries, and then maybe we have one or two shots. Whereas with wide receiver, yeah, we have our studs, but I'd rather have five surprises at wide receiver versus five surprises at running back. So
Correct.
we actually
And
actually
we
we
got
actually
it
got
come back
both.
around and work out well.
Yeah, so
Love it. So
let's
now
do it.
let's look at this receiver room, right? And it's like, you know what? Um, you picked two receivers to start, and then you didn't pick receiver for the next. Was it
40
we
picks or
picked
whatever.
Ridley? We picked you picked McBride. You picked Jacobs, and then you picked Mixon, right? But
Yeah,
for a team that really kind of punted that round three, which a lot of times ADP, like they price guys up in that range because someone has to go there. Like
yeah,
you're almost betting on, hey, we'll come and meet your Devontae Smiths and your, kind of younger up and coming receivers with Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. We'll attack that with some of these guys. So I do like, given the hand you were dealt and then how you decided to play it, how this is shaping out. Now let's talk structurally. So at this point, we have 15 to, we have four more picks, right? You
yeah,
only have one quarterback. I do think, even though I like going two quarterbacks most of the time, this is an acceptable build since we didn't get Kyler and now we're kind of in pocket quarterback
yeah.
world. I think it is going to maybe help our advance rates if we get three quarterbacks. Have we committed to four running backs? Is that something you're comfortable with?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't feel comfortable going more than four here. If anything, it's going to be just such a stretch that any other position that we pick, quarterback, wide receiver, I think is just going to be way better for our advance rate.
Exactly. And then the bottom line too is like you're going to drop many times, right?
Yeah,
Draft as if each draft that you're drafting in the moment is right. So this team, like, let's assume that Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, and Tony Pollard are RB1s this year, and they
yeah,
stay healthy. Which someone will laugh and say, "Oh, three older guys staying healthy, huh?" Well, maybe if one of them gets hurt, Kendra Miller comes in.
yeah,
But I do like, I don't five running backs is the sweet spot usually for me. But this is the kind of build where, especially if I'm like, man, I felt like I'm a little behind receiver, I need to attack it with volume. I feel comfortable doing that. So Gino is a guy I think could be in play here.
yeah,
Um, Obviously, and the reason I also like Gino, we have Lockett. You can sneak Noah Fant there as well. He's
mm,
now has the tight end room, I'd say, to himself. Um, right. So that's another way. Now, obviously, we don't want it three tight ends when we prioritize this much. Doesn't feel great. But if we are drafting four running backs, so if we, let's say, in theory, you drafted two quarterbacks, another tight end, and another receiver, you're still leaving the draft with eight wide receivers, right?
yeah. And I think also like you talk about Noah Fant there, like if we, it's like, do I want if I wanted to pick a trash player, at least pick a trash player who can do something
Chill on him.
and
Chill on
it
Noah.
pairs with a quarterback that I have too. So like you get a little bit of a correlation boost there. So I don't mind taking another risk on that if it's a part of the stack.
Well, we
And
should probably
as you say that Noah Fant
Levis.
gets sniped. So
Yeah. So I mean, I'd say this is a Will Levis pick here, right? At
yeah.
this point, we've pot committed to the Titans. We got to get Will Levis on this roster, and then kind of work our way around there. So now my question is: are you comfortable two quarterbacks with Will Levis and Matt Stafford?
I think if you play it as these are the quarterbacks that are going with my stacks, I think that's a perfectly acceptable thing.
Yeah.
Now,
I
if
think where it gets uncomfortable for me is I'm like, for a team like this, wouldn't you feel like Geno Smith is going to help you more than like one of these receivers,
you
right?
just took the words out of my mouth, that I was going to say that, like, if I could see the situation though where I mean, we have to take Levis here, so
Yeah.
taking Levis, where it's not just a random quarterback. You know, we at least have some correlation with it with Tyler Lockett. And if Will Levis gets hurt, benched, whatever,
Mhm.
anything happens, at least we know we got some sort of backup going there to cover
Mhm.
for bye weeks or help at advance rates. So
Yeah.
I think like it's definitely one of those. It's not like the most points play, but it's the best
Mhm.
win percentage play.
I think so here. Yeah, and also, we'll still be able to sneak in maybe like Tyler Boyd to kind of close this out. And I do like there are some guys at wide receiver that make sense as late round kind of spike week dart throws. So
Yeah.
now let's see if we can now like maybe sneak in some correlation here. So obviously we are riding Atlanta, I should say Arizona. We're riding on this team. Tennessee, who has matchups. We don't know who they play week 16, but they play the Jaguars. It's gonna be hard to get someone in there. Um, we have the Rams, got Arizona, the Jets, and the Niners. Um, I guess it does feel like we're not getting we our game stack is going to be that Arizona.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So,
We're
uh,
able to use our type tools. We'll be able to prioritize that a little more, um, but definitely something to kind of keep an eye out on.
yeah, so actually, let me pick your brain here. Why? I mean, you still got a handful of picks left, but as I scroll down, I see someone like OBJ's ADP at basically 200. Now, it doesn't fit for this particular build. We have no Miami players, no one that's playing against him. But I see someone that's explosive like that. That on off weeks, he's a guy who could get like 2 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. For someone
Yeah,
explosive like him, like if it fits your stack, I think these are the type of guys that you should be targeting very late in the draft with high
he
ADPs
looked
that you know
good,
that can be
right?
explosive.
Honestly, truly, from my eyes, I don't. What do I know? He looked pretty good last year.
Yeah.
I want to say, did Demarcus Robinson just go? Of course he did, right?
I don't think so. No, he's still
Is
there.
he still available? Okay, so that's a guy I would highlight just because you already got the Stafford thing going on. Um, but with your build, like right now, I'm okay taking swings at receivers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I'm almost thinking like if I hit, I want this player to be a guy who is like, whoa, like he was like, so, some of these guys have fit the profile. Javon Baker, right? Obviously could be nothing and not running routes, but maybe at
Yeah.
the end of the season, he's getting, 90% routes and Drake May is slinging him the pill. And sorry, did you end up taking Geno?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so we're locked in with three quarterbacks. Let's check out the everything but quarterback, just to see running back, receiver, tight end landscape. So we have two more picks here coming up, and um, I am curious. Someone like Khalil Herbert, like I do think he offers a unique upside. For this build, maybe not. Like, what if he gets traded, right? Or what if
Yeah.
the Bears are nice and Swift gets hurt and he kind of falls into a really nice role? But also, we committed to the four running back role, so we don't have to overcomplicate that.
Yeah. So I'm just
But what you
yeah.
can do is stack. Yeah, you can just say I'm going to close this out and just stack my guys that I've already built around.
Yeah. So I mean, we got 6 picks away. I got 3 guys queued up that I kind of like that, you know, are a little bit higher that I would have an ADP or are part of the
Hmm.
correlation. So hopefully we can get 2 of these 3. See how that plays out.
Yeah. And these do Robinson and Boyd profile similarly, where like they're not sexy picks, right? No one's
Yeah.
getting excited about them, but they are pretty ingrained. Like they're going to be running routes, unless they're hurt. These teams, the Rams didn't invest that much, but Robinson did have chemistry, especially in the red zone with Stafford, and they brought it back for like 5 million. Tyler Boyd, it was still like yeah, it wasn't a big splash signing, but it was like, hey, dude, we want you here, and you're gonna play here, right? You're gonna be the number three receiver, but some like that's you can't say that for a lot of these
Yeah.
guys here, right? Like you can't say that for as fun as Jalen McMillan or Malik Washington are, and for some builds, you could say maybe that like if we didn't have Stafford and Levis, I would be on board with saying let's just take a swing on some of these younger guys who could be zeros. We have seven receivers. Um, but what do you think? Maybe picking one of either Robinson or Boyd and then taking like an aggressive swing on someone else. Even like you got Rondell Moore queued up. Like
Yeah,
he's
I think we have too many like I think Tennessee we're
Titans.
fine. Yeah, I think we're good with Titans, so I'm gonna go to Mark and Robinson. And
Mhm.
after that, I think we're gonna close it off with Rondale Moore, someone who's a little bit more of a surprise dart shot play, I think. And
And I would say if you didn't, yeah. I mean, he looks like he's clear path to being the number three receiver. He's an explosive player.
yeah,
He can look one of these guys where it just wouldn't surprise me if think about like Elijah Moore last year, right? Where
yeah,
yeah, it was an inefficient usage, but he was getting some design looks. They were in the red zone, jet sweep, right? Or quick screens, things like that. Get the ball in his hands, and hopefully score. Right? He's explosive. That's the big thing. He can get a 40-yard touchdown, and all of a sudden he's in your lineup. So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that about rounds it up.
Yeah. So one last quick peek through the team. Uh, I'm gonna scroll here down a little bit more for people to see, and I'll also post this team in Discord. If you have any questions about the team or how we're drafting, or if you have questions about your own draft process and you want to pick our brains, we're in the Discord as well. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord is where you can find out how to join. We're doing these streams at least once, twice a week. If it's not me in lead, it's going to be Chris, Chuck. Our whole team is doing it, pushing pretty hard for some best ball mania. Once these schedules get released and I mean, we fully digested the lead, I think we're going to be going a little bit more further into these drafts. I'm going to do a little bit more BBMs, and it's going to be a fun time. The schedule's released. It's almost here. It's almost here.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it is here. Pull up your team. I want to just kind of go through the journey. Like,
Yeah.
how do we end up here and kind of talk through maybe what we could have done differently. And also, it is, I mean, you're drafting. I'm kind of talking. I'm fucking confusing you. You're probably like, dude, I want to pick this stuff. So I can understand how that presents its own set of challenges
Yeah.
versus when you're just, focused on your own and picking the guys that you want. Um, but yeah, click on your team, not like the draft board. I actually just want to see your team.
How do I do that? Can you do that?
So you just need to click your icon on the draft board. So wherever, and I mean, it's about to end in a sec, so you'll be able to
Okay.
pull it up anyway.
Let's
But
see.
yeah, like you see where it says like Rondell Moore, if you click that.
Let's see. Hold on one second, guys. Let me get here. View full draft. That's a different one. Let's see. Here we go. Full draft. So we have the full draft here.
There we go. So yeah, so obviously, the and you can go back. Actually, go back.
Yeah, I think the computer's being messed up about going back there. So I think
Oh,
we
it's
just
all
have it
good.
here or the
No worries.
draft board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just go through it. Yeah. So like obviously Kyler like really changed the entire trajectory of the draft. If you would have taken Kyler
Yeah.
um, at that point, things go differently. But you didn't panic, and instead you kind of leaned into it. I'd say we didn't go into it saying let's get a Titan stack, right? It's kind of like
Yeah.
one decision compounds, and the next thing you know, you're like, okay, well we're a little behind on receiver, and Calvin Ridley. It kind of makes sense if we're picking him. Was it round 6 where he went? Yeah, round 6. Like, okay, well, he's our wide receiver. Then you come back around. You know, we wanted Kyler, didn't get him. We're taking Hopkins, right? The plan was to get Kyler and Hopkins. We'd have been feeling good.
Yeah.
And then at that point, round 8, it's like, okay, shit, let's just lean into it. We already got, we didn't go into it saying we wanted the Titans, but now you're getting round 6, 7, and 8. You're getting 3 guys off one team that correlate, and um, really the question is age, health, offensive environment, but these are all proven. They're all valuable in fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not looking at unknown commodities here. So then you took your guy Lockett, which once again we're still feeling behind at receiver, and I think that's a great guy. Like you just feel like we'll get some usable weeks, right?
Yeah.
The Goddard pick, that really picking Goddard there probably that was probably I scared you off Hawkinson. The reason I did was if we had taken Hawkinson, going with 2 tight ends and him would have felt weird because what if he misses the first 6 weeks, 8 weeks of the season? What you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, whereas taking Goddard, that's kind of like the end of. I also do like Pat Fryermuth, but some of those guys you get further down, and it's like this 2 tight end strategy does not feel as lucrative anymore.
Yeah.
But then you close out the stack with Stafford, the Puka stack. And then once again, the profiles of these guys you're getting, Josh Downs, who I think is a really good receiver. I think Steve Smith compared him to like a young Santana Moss. And I definitely see that, right? He's a small
Yeah.
guy who plays big. Darnell Mooney, but you're getting explosive receivers, guys that we're not counting on volume. We're
Yeah. We
fine.
just
We're
want
not
these
going to
people to
get
be
8
explosive,
catch
get you
games.
1, maybe 2 weeks out of it, help you advance. Maybe get something during the bye weeks, and just kind of mitigate the
Mm-hmm.
damage. Help you get advanced in some ways. So, yeah.
And it's like we're getting guys that we know are going to run a lot of routes and are probably in favorable offensive environments with those two. We expect the Falcons to be good, right? Everyone's picking as such, and then even the Colts. There's some question marks of how good they'll be, but we believe in Shane Steichen. We know they'll play fast. We know they'll throw a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and then you got your 2 quarterbacks where, I mean, look, we didn't get Kyler, but you didn't spend much on quarterback, right? You spent around 15, 16, and wherever you got Stafford on. So low investment, but took
11.
3.
Yeah.
That's when I like taking 3, right? I don't want to take 3 when you take Kyler because
Yes.
part of the Kyler bet is I'm thinking he's going to be my quarterback for 80% of the season because
Yeah.
even when he doesn't have a great game, he's going to run for enough that like that 2 point difference that you'll maybe miss out on is okay with, right?
Yeah.
Versus when you get more pocket quarter, like the variance is just higher, right? Like Stafford, we saw a lot of it last year where Stafford was phenomenal football wise, right? Kyron Williams was just running it in the end zone though. So you had Stafford playing really well and Puka crushing it, but you didn't get the fantasy points because he would have 280 and 1 touchdown, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, the Rams put up 24, but you're like, okay, so, and then the Demarcus Robinson, great correlation. So I like this draft. I'd say it just kind of shows you have to be adaptable, and that's the fun in it. Like, don't get stagnant. Don't just draft the same people every time, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy got sniped. I'm gonna go back to the well. Check your exposures. Really look
Yeah.
carefully. Like, you're over 20% on a guy. Like, you should look around at all the guys being taken from around them and ask yourself, are you really that sure this player is not only going to be that much better during the regular season, but
During
offers
the
the
play.
unique spike week upside? So most of the time, the answer is going to be like, oh, I'm not that confident, right? So
Yeah.
let's reel it back in. Um, but no, fun draft, Moose. I had a great
Definitely.
time, and
I think the whole theme of
hopefully,
it. Yeah. I was gonna say. I think the whole theme of it. You hit it on the head. Like, basically, nobody in our team is sexy at all. Really, we got some good guys that can make some plays. I think, as old head as that sounds, I think that's just kind of the team that we drafted in. We adapted, got the players that can get it done, and I like it. So
exactly. And I think the last thing to kind of round it up is people do wonder, like, structure. What's the best way? 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks, 4. How many running backs? How many receivers do you draft? And I think the key takeaway is just be fluid.
yeah,
Obviously, have some constraints. Don't draft 4 quarterbacks ever. right? You're drafting 4 tight ends. That's probably crazy. Don't draft 3 running backs. Don't have your realistic constraints, but then if the draft forces you, don't be afraid to push it one direction. And I think for a 4 running back build here, this is how I would do it, right? I don't always like doing it. Maybe 10% of my builds will be 4 running backs,
Yeah.
but it's not my 4 running back builds aren't going to be with my first running back coming in round 9, right? That's
Yes.
just not, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
so good stuff.
Definitely. I'm excited that we finally got a time to do this stream together. I love picking your brain. I love all your expert knowledge and all that stuff. So can't wait to do it again. Again, if you guys have any questions or you like the video, definitely go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe. We're doing these multiple times a week. But until next time, Musa and Waleed from OccupyFantasy.com. Have a good night.